vote. Alright, very interesting.
It's about this. It's
It's about mounting, right? Talks about inequality in our society, the impact, some of the reasons. What I want to try to do is use this lecture to try to bring more context. Let's talk about the dynamics of globalization, employment, certain policies, policy areas that impact the middle class. All right.
Do you want us to get that other book now? The word was by?
Yeah, either you do it on Amazon, which
It's not here?
No.
it will be here next week. Yeah,
The world is not going to be tonight.
yeah, it will be here next week. So either order it online or next week. All right. So, as I was saying, we're going to talk about globalization, inequality, and middle class politics. Now, these images that I have in back of me, we all recognize these symbols. Right? These are in a different cultural context. These are in different countries. These symbols that we grew up with in a lot of ways. McDonald's, KFC, now Starbucks. How many Starbucks cups are in here now? Right. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Right.
CNR.
Okay. So as part of this, the dynamics of globalization, it's economic, but it has a lot of variables to it. We'll start to peel it back. All right. Now, when you think about globalization, for the most part, we think about it in terms of wealth and military. Wealth, who is the richest country? In military, who's the most powerful country? See? You mentioned it, everybody, we are, right? It's ingrained in the American culture, it's part of the American culture, right? Now, one way to look at this is that, yes, the United States has the biggest economy, has the biggest military. We're in more countries than any other nation. We have the biggest economy, the most sophisticated technological economy in the world has ever seen, and the most sophisticated military the world has ever seen. All right? So in those measures, you look at a ranking and you say, yes, okay, good, we're good to go. All right? But when you start to measure the work and the contributions of a country, with those measuring sticks, it's very one-dimensional. All right? Because when you start talking about history, cuisine, geography, religion, politics, so forth and so on, there are a lot of places in the world who contribute just as much or more than what we do. All right? Does anyone know what is the number one tourist destination in the world? Tourist destination in the world. Paris, France. Right? People go there because they want to consume something. They want to consume culture. They want to consume cuisine, the lights, right? The literature, so forth and so on. All right? What about religion? What are some of the most popular places that people go every year for religious? Israel, Italy, right? Vatican. Every year there's a pilgrimage. Muslims around the world do Hajj. All right. And for for a lot of people, those are the most, say, fulfilling and important aspects or voices that they've made in their lives. All right. What about cuisine? Somebody name their favorite type of food.
Italian.
Chinese.
Italian, Mexican, Chinese.
Big Southern all over.
That's interesting because everybody names something different, right? That's readily accessible, that they can get. They don't have to travel to the country. It's brought here, right? But it wasn't invented or made in America. Right?
You can get chicken wings in the lawn.
Sure can. And another thing, as we move along in the 21st century, most of the biggest challenges that we face as a world cannot be solved with military might alone. Global warming has the potential to destroy us all. And what's it caused by? Economic development. Everybody wants to drive a car. Everybody needs to turn on the air conditioning. We use electricity. All right? But if we're the most developed country in the world, how can we go and tell everybody else, a lot of poor people, no, you can't do that? All right? Are we going to bomb them? Is that going to work? It takes a lot of negotiation, sitting down. It takes compromise to solve many of the world's greatest challenges in the 21st century. It's terrorism, right? We've been at war for the last decade, going after terrorists. Have we solved the problem? Nobody knows. Is it terrorist a country? Are they terrorist countries? A lot of times, they're highly educated. A lot of times, well off, people who have money, sophisticated people, who do stupid things. Military is not always the way to approach that situation, all right? But if you have goodwill in the world and from others, it makes people think about us, I guess, and other people differently, all right? So yes, we're the most wealthy, military powerful nation on earth. But the wealth, the military, is not the only thing that's necessary to solve the challenges of the 21st century. All right? And I say that because there's more dimensions to this globalization phenomenon. All right? This brings us to perception and influence. Now, there is a major cultural dimension to globalization. You can travel to virtually any country in the world. Turn on the TV. If they don't have a TV, you hook up a satellite dish. And you will find some sort of American TV genre on. Sometimes you'll be very surprised. There'll be country westerns. There'll be television shows from the 80s. There'll be current TV shows that are on. Music. People listen to our hip-hop, rock and roll, love songs, Motown, so forth and so on. Even if they can't speak English, you'll find you'll hear them mumbling out the words or trying to pronounce the words. All right? McDonald's is 123 countries around the world. That's a lot. It's everywhere. Really. somewhere around 169 countries in the world. Don't quote me on that, but it's somewhere around there. All right. Coca-Cola's in 200 countries. Well, I tell you, it's more than 169 there. 200 countries. You can be driving in the most rural area of Africa. There's nothing around, but you may see a little stand that sells fruit with a Coca-Cola sign. Amazing. All right? It's everywhere. Hollywood, 2011, $32.6 billion in sales. All right? But 2/3 of that, $22.4 billion, was in foreign markets. So more people abroad are consuming our media than people here. There's more people abroad. That's 124,000 movie theaters abroad somewhere that are showing American movies. So Japan's the highest, China's the next. France, UK, India, Germany, Russia, Australia. And there's a couple of dynamics here. So when we talk about China and Russia, I mean, we're in the Cold War with Russia for a long time. Yet they're one of the top consumers of our media. China is set to be the next economic largest economy. In military terms, we are always looking at them with a suspicious eye. In military terms, in the military dimension, but in terms of culture, they're the second highest revenue generating country. I want to show this clip right here about hip hop, the concept, which is developed right here in New York City, right? Poor working class people dealing with issues found a way to articulate that. Somehow it's caught on to become mainstream in the United States, even though it was shunned for quite some time. It's caught on to different people around the world, right?
Hip-hop is a global culture. It's an art that gives a voice to those who may not otherwise have one, and allows the oppressed to tell the world their situation. While hip-hop serves the global market, it becomes customized to suit local culture. In modern education, people learn about other countries and cultures, and mostly focus on the history of that place. However, it is important to understand what is going on around the world now. Localized hip-hop is one of the most informative mediums to discover cultural identity and social issues around the world. In this video, we will learn about various issues in Hawaii, Brazil, London, Israel, and Japan through both their hip-hop music and culture. Brazil, like many other countries, is a very involved hip-hop community. Hip-hop is used as a tool for change in the country. Hip-hop culture emerges out of the poorest parts of the country. It sounds similar to a familiar place we know. The idea that an oppressed group of people who do not have equal opportunities, resources, or representation can obtain their voice through hip-hop is one we'd like to put forth. That feeling of belonging and empowerment is important to really understanding the need for hip-hop in a pedagogical sense. The Estilo hip-hop movement is about just that, using hip-hop as a weapon of mass activism. Estilo hip-hop is about using elements of hip-hop as a political tool for the people of Brazil. In Brazil, Hip-hop is used as a tool to enforce freedom and to reinforce critical thinking and collaboration. Critical thinking comes into play when people are forced to look at their situations as systematic and institutionalized issues that are perpetuated through politics. Racial inequalities as well as violent acts against women are exposed and critically discussed in Brazil's hip-hop community. Hip-hop culture in Brazil is a reflection of the people who produce it in terms of what they hope to see in their communities.
Para nosotros se convirtió como un alma.
In 1893, the Queen of Hawaii was overthrown, and in 1950, Hawaii finally became the 50th state of the U.S. Many Native Hawaiians are not satisfied with statement and believe that the steps the United States took toward gaining this territory were illegal. The Hawaiian sovereignty movement focuses on the desire for self-governance and self-determination. Some natives want to secede from the Union, while others want to have a nation within a nation. One potential solution is the Akaka Bill, which would recognize Native Hawaiians in a similar fashion to Native Americans. This bill has been strongly rejected by many Native Hawaiians, resulting in protests and political unrest in regards to this issue. The artist called Sun Rush, originally from Hawaii, created an album with political themes which directly relate back to the sovereignty movement. The group is careful to avoid including violence or swear words in their music. The following is a sample of music from Sun Rush. Racism in England's school system is a prominent issue in the classroom. Teachers prejudge and underestimate their Black Caribbean students. They directly correlate their behavior to their academic success, though their behavioral problems may stem from the lack of support and low expectations for teachers. The parents of these students say that as teachers discriminate against their kids. According to a British newspaper, the question is, how much is real behavioral problems and how much is a problem between teachers and pupils? An example of this is when students turn 14. Teachers choose the top-ranked students to take advanced placement tests in math and science, and the Caribbean students are seldom chosen. To end the cycle, it must begin with teachers understanding that Caribbean students and taking into account their academic abilities rather than the color of their skin.
Injustice, injustice, injustice is injustice. Trust this.
Black Caribbean culture in the UK is influenced by reggae and hip-hop. Rap groups such as Mongo discuss political issues as well as racism. The goal is to give a depiction of the real British life. Efforts such as the musical festival in England called Love, Music, Hate, Racism celebrate a multicultural society in response to rising levels of racism in the British National Party, also known as the BNP's racist political views. Musicians and people all over the world come together to battle racism.
Reaching the teachers because the BFP are trying to sort of involve the teachers with their age, and it's important that we go to where the BFP have a voice and have a voice on board. You know what I mean? Because imagine if all the teachers decide they're members of the BFP, how terrible would that be in this country? It's important that they combat the BFP and they show themselves, because they're showing themselves here, they're going to be there as well. The experiences growing up in this country, anybody that looks slightly not English knows what I mean. You go to certain areas in this country and at least you get very, very, very unnoticed. And people actually can fight just based on it.
In 1933, Adolf Hitler came into power in Germany. Hitler used his motivation and speaking skills to brainwash thousands of people to accept his thoughts as truth and to adapt his ideas as their own. His main goal during his leadership was to rid the world of Jews. He created concentration camps in which Jews and other groups of people as well would be sent to work and or ultimately be exterminated. During the years of the Holocaust, 1939 until 1945, 6 million Jews were killed. After the final liberations from concentration camps and the official end of World War II in 1945, the Jewish state of Israel was established on May 14, 1948. Holocaust education has become more prevalent in recent years. It is also more apparent in popular culture, including movies and music. Israeli performers, Subliminal and Miri Ben-Ari joined together in 2007 to create a tribute to the Holocaust, a song entitled God Almighty Went Ahead. Japan is a country rich in tradition and history. Before the 16th century, Japan was hidden from the West. In 1854, the Convention of Kanagawa forced the opening of Japan to the outside world. This caused economic and political crisis in Japan, and eventually caused the country to begin to adopt many Western institutions and ideas. To this day, there is a cultural divide between those who embrace Western ideas and those who wish to preserve Japan's traditional culture. This is blatantly apparent in Japanese hip-hop culture, which is often criticized for being an imitation of American hip-hop. Even though many people do try and replicate American hip-hop in Japan, as you can see from the very Western images presented in this hip-hop video, Japanese hip-hop also embodies the struggle to define oneself as Japanese. In Kogi Japan's song Hungry, he uses food to define himself and debunks many of the myths that have sprung up about Japan due to Westernization. Many may see Japanese hip-hop as imitation at first, it is clearly showcasing the cultural split between Western and Japanese in its images and lyrics. Representing what seem like very Western images mixed with aspects of Japanese culture, Japanese hip-hop artists are creating something that is truly unique and representative of Japan. Today, knowing what is going on in the world is crucial. At a time where so much injustice, misrepresentation, and misunderstanding exists, it is important to discover what is truth. Through the globalization of hip-hop, we now have a medium to learn about other countries and cultures through their own words, and the pedagogical value of this is undeniable. Rather than reading carbon-copied facts from a textbook, we need to hear the voices of those people and learn what it is that is really happening all across the world.
Listen for nice and different flavors, the educated, big daddy, somebody daddies, Uncle say Larry, the really never rally, my mother gave birth, but she
Interesting, huh? Yeah. Very interesting, huh? So what's up? What are some things? What's going on here? All right. It's a borrowing of a structure, some type of art, right? Cultural. Something cultural. But what else is going on here?
Uniting people in different and the artist type of way, and the art form type of way.
Uniting people.
Many people be able to have things in common.
It's a bridge builder, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're also expressing their feelings through lyrics. Sending a message across, sometimes it could be a negative thing.
Expressing their
Yeah,
feelings.
they're expressing
Right.
through the music, how they feel.
What else?
In terms of economics, we're reading the book now, borders, things are kind of flattening out. It's easier to go from year to year because
Yep.
there's, the borders are becoming erased. Maybe just music now, but it might be other forms of art, it could be the way we do business, or whatever, but it all impact on now global economy because, it's not just right here, it's literally just right here.
It's literally
It's
just right
flattening
here.
out, so.
They can just upload something and you can be a part of
Or on
the
YouTube.
United States, same thing.
What else is going on here?
I think it was Brazil when they said that this rap, the hip hop became their weapon, they're using it to influence society.
Yeah, right? Started off, poor working class people using this, found some type of medium to communicate, right? Get their message out. Then other people have picked this up, right? That are dealing with the same type of issue. It could be any type of issue, right? But it's a form, it's a medium, right? Communication. Good.
I think that it's a non-violent way of like expressing yourself. Sometimes people act out on their emotions, and what they're doing is they're using it to be more constructive, to get out how they feel. So they turn it into a tool, like an art. Because clearly some of the things that they said in it, they were upset about the children and everything inside the schools, and being treated unfairly, stuff like that. So I think they use, like you said, a form of expression, but it's a non-violent way of expressing.
Yes, I think so.
I think one of the things is it's making people around the world become more familiar with America or the United States, which breaks down barriers because, as they say, when you don't know someone, you can hate them or dislike them. It's easier to dislike them when you don't know them. But this makes America more palatable to other countries all around the world.
Very good, right? It's unmistakable that this medium is an American invention, right? That has been taken and adopted by the people. But even in those countries, the people know, well, that comes from there, right? But it's something that Victor said, when you get close to people, start hearing what they say, learning about, start emulating dress, clothes, musical style, so forth and so on. It's hard to hate because it's easier to hate when you do not like, when you live off of stereotypes, right? Howard, you gonna say something?
Yes, it also links activism with making money.
And Marisa said it's a very good point. Why? Because it's a product. It's also a product, right? We talk about globalization. There's a cultural dimension here. A product, that's a cultural dimension. It's hard to put your hands on it, but at some point, someone's making money somewhere, right? Clothes, music, when it's transferred from one country to another, a lot of times at some point there's advertising revenues, right? Because you can't turn on the internet and get anything free anymore, right? They're always popping stuff up. When you find one way to download that's free, sometimes that gets cut off, or they start flashing more stuff at you, advertising. Someone's getting paid for it, right? But what I want to do is highlight that this phenomenon of globalization is not just purely economical and military. There's a cultural dimension here, right? And you can show up to someone's shores with a big ship, you may not get a good response. But if you show up with music and McDonald's, it's more palatable, All right?
Depending on the environment type of music.
Yeah.
It depends on where you're at, the environment, you have to play music according to the environment you're in.
Exactly. All right? What's music? It's music.
That's music,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It's a common, I think it's a common vehicle to expression. In other words, like the radio, it presents music, but it can be any type of music, but the vehicle is the radio. Everybody is listening to the radio and wants to hear any type of music they want.
Yes. But just remember, there's a cultural dimension here.
That goes
That's
to the
the
station.
China. KFC is the most popular restaurant. There's more KFCs in China than any other restaurant. Chinese restaurants, American restaurants. The bigger question here is, at some point, there's going to be other larger economies in the United States because our population is small compared to China's, India's, so forth and so on. It's not saying that we're going to become poor, but our economy is not going to be the largest in the world. All right? We can only build so many nuclear weapons. All right? So at some point, there's a finite level to where money and military power will take you. But there's this other dimension. There's this cultural aspect. When we travel around the world, people are consuming, like we do here, consumer culture, people are consuming these American products and culture. I'll show you guys this.
The most welcome.
Somebody's getting paid for that.
Recognized American. As surprising as it may sound, the most well-recognized American face for many Chinese isn't Barack Obama. Instead, the most well-known, and perhaps even the most beloved American, is none other than the grandfather of fried chicken himself, Colonel Sanders. That's because there are more than 3,400 KFCs throughout China, more in fact than any other restaurant chain, local or foreign. Welcome to modern-day China, where fast food restaurants are now ubiquitous across the landscape, with new locations opening at a breakneck pace.
Right now I'm standing by the newly opened Fatburger in Beijing. Fatburger is just one of a handful of American chains hungry to break into China, as the population here increasingly embraces fast food.
China's love of fast food is a relatively new phenomenon. KFC became the first American chain to establish a presence here when it opened a branch in Beijing in 1987. McDonald's soon followed suit, opening its first restaurant in mainland China just 3 years later. And while these two chains have pursued slightly different business models, both of them found almost instant success in China. Today, China accounts for nearly 40% of KFC's overall sales, just slightly behind the US. The reasons for the success of these chains and for the growing popularity of fast food here are numerous. Don Birchgold, the president and COO of LA-based Fatburger, says China's consumers are simply becoming more open to foreign brands and products.
China is really starting to grow in a lot of accepting Western ideas and Western products into the marketplace.
Fatburger hopes to capitalize on that by bringing a slice of Americana to the Far East, rather than by modifying their food for the local market.
As we grow and we really understand our market, we'll be able to do some adjusting, but we're really trying to deliver that American experience of the Western experience of the hamburger, of a quality hamburger.
Of course, the reason that fast food has become so popular here isn't just limited to the novelty appeal of foreign products. China has also spawned a few homegrown fast food chains. all hoping to compete with the big foreign players. And much of the growth of fast food here in the past decade can be linked to improved living standards and a rapidly growing middle class. As in America, fast food appeals to the two things that the middle class finds in short supply: money and time.
We just pay close attention to the convenience and also to the price.
But China's newfound love affair with fast food isn't all smiles and happy meals. Waistlines here are expanding, and there's a growing diabetes epidemic. Jia Jianbin, a researcher at the Chinese Nutrition Society, says that many of these problems can be linked to the growth of the fast food industry.
Western fast food has a big impact on a lot.
Well, that's for the most part what I wanted you to see. Now, this gentleman here with the camera take photos of me for advertisement for class and stuff like that.
Of you and
Okay, interact. All right. I just want you guys to be aware, just in case you didn't see this big lens. Okay.
They're for like advertising, website, publications, blah 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 for the college, and I have to get everybody to sign. Except those of you who work for the college of Hiroshima, do not need to sign them. I see a few. I need to sign them off just for our purposes, so we can use the photos. That's okay. If anyone doesn't want to participate, please just let me know. You don't have to. Sorry. Yes, we can.
Can I ask for two favors? One is, we're only going to be here for 10, 15 minutes. Just during the time that I'm here, all those soda bottles and cups and stuff, they can just go on the floor and then you sip and drink all you want after I leave. And then the other thing I would love to really show this as a dynamic class is the people who are like way out in the boondocks, if they can come and fill like these chairs here. So I just want to center on one little section here. But I would like to see empty chairs. Thank you. The extra point. And get away, extra credit. You're good. Some of these other people here, like those folks way in the back, and these guys. Seats. Maybe you're the dancing boys. I only need like 5 or 6 to move. That's all I need. Here comes one. Here comes one. No more volunteers. I only need like 3 or 4 more to just fill those chairs. It'll make a huge difference. Thanks.
We'll get like 10, 15 minutes.
We're only going to be shooting this one.
I'd like to just shoot this area here, but it's got to be filled with people. So if you want to slide over, that'd be awesome.
I don't fit in these chairs, quite frankly.
Oh yeah, I like to have that alley opened up. Yeah. If you want to sit in that chair though, you can go like maybe 3 down. 3 down would be good. No, I mean, in that chair. This yeah. Right there, yeah, that's perfect.
Check the scratch and scribble on it. Names are carved in.
Oh, so what else have you done? Thomas Edison was here. Marco Polo. Did she move them? Thank you.
And my friend over here is already showed up.
Okay, that's fine.
The lens doesn't reach that far.
Could you make my hair curly? Alice's work so it's all great. This is what was
You're not going to put one flavor, nor are we going to sell them. Nor are we going to sell them to make them. No, you don't. I don't get to inspect that looks really bad. I wouldn't do that. Good? Because when you do it, you take
Excuse me, I'm trying to get natural.
Did you get that? I did. Okay. Okay, look, I'm sorry for the interruption, y'all. Let's get going to it. I know some of y'all caught off guard, but that's okay, all right? They're doing this because they want to do advertisements for the program, hype it up, and get out there, and so forth and so on, all right? Bring in more people, see pretty faces, so forth and so on, all right? If you don't want to be in it, then you just step outside. If you want to be in it, it's good to go. We all appreciate it, and that's that, all right? But back to this. As for what we just saw, KFC in China, what's going on? We just talked about the hip-hop going around the world, so forth and so on. But now we have this tangible product, right? Fried chicken, all right? Popular thing. What's going on? They're becoming more American, right? Yeah, just like us, right?
They're advertising.
But what's going on at first? What is going on? KFC, they're opening up, right? What is it? Culture, right? I mean, do you think there's no fried chicken in China?
No.
They just don't have a secret recipe.
Not the Colonel's from New York.
Colonel in Kentucky, right? When people go to get the product, what are they buying? Are they buying just the chicken? Are they buying the taste? Or what else are they buying? They're buying a piece of the culture, right? Along with the consequences. Along with the consequences.
Well, they should.
Yeah. We do. Yeah, there's one in New Rochelle, there's one in
They're also Chinese restaurants all over the place.
Exactly.
They're spreading the love.
Yes.
Right? It's good for them, it's good for us.
Yes, but remember when I said, who wants to, what's your favorite food, right? People rose their hands and said Italian, right? Mexican. I heard it's Italian more than anything else, right?
They accommodate us with the foods that we like and they spice it up. Chinese restaurant.
To a certain degree, but
So one of the things I remember them saying was that they adopted their middle class now wanted the same things. They wanted things fast, and they wanted it to be readily available. So fast food is one of the things that if you're a working person, you go eat your burger, you eat the kids.
yeah, time, right?
Time.
Time cheap relative to a long cooked meal. But in China, the fast food is not necessarily the cheapest food. The cheapest food is the little restaurants, the traditional Chinese restaurants. You can go in there, soup, chicken, rice, things like that. But it's fast food, right? It's an American concept. It's a product. But you also mentioned something else, middle class, right? As you have these growing, developing countries, you have this larger middle class, all right? There's 1.3 billion people in China. About 600 million, 700 million over the last 30 years have come out of poverty, abject poverty. Poverty meaning living less than $1 or $2 per day, all right? And have entered this new middle class, all right? So now they can purchase these products. KFC, all right? Does anyone know what the second highest, or the first highest sales of Chevy vehicles or Ford vehicles? You must go out here and get you, right?
South America?
No, China. Because it's an insatiable demand for the cars, for the products, for the American lifestyle, right? Especially for the people that are coming into the middle class, right? You have to be mindful of this and keep it in mind.
Oh, he did.
You just go right here.
Be careful, don't fall.
Okay.
Watch out, fast.
You have to be mindful because as the middle class increases in these developing countries, there's more and more of a market for these consumer goods that we take for granted, right? So this globalization goes both ways. So we're out there in the world selling our culture, not selling goods per se, but we're selling something, right? At the same time, what I'm going to show you next is we're also purchasing things. A lot of the clothes we wear, a lot of the shoes we wear, a lot of these computers we have are made in China. Right. At some point, we were the biggest industrial country, most technologically, we are the most technologically advanced, but we're not making these goods anymore. All we're doing is producing providing services now. All right? So what I want you to understand is globalization is a two-way street. We're selling something, services, culture, in a lot of ways, intangible goods. Sometimes they're tangible goods, but sometimes they're intangible, but they're popular. All right? You'll find every corner of the globe people replicating American culture in one way or another, even in countries where we're quote unquote supposed to have problems with, right? It's not uncommon for people in Iran, right, to be listening to hip hop, to know the new 50 Cent song that's coming out, right? Little girls listening to Justin Bieber, thinking he's cute, right? Well, she knows more than I do, but I'll tell you.
That's old.
Right. These are household names, right? So there's a different dimension here to this globalization. So as we walk through, and then we start talking about employment in the United States, we have to understand that there's more to it than just what we see. All right? And the only way to really see it and understand it is to get out there. Want to sit down?
No, if she has a question for you, you need to go right up next to her.
Pearl?
No. I go have a question?
Yep.
Oh,
I got a question.
I have no idea. What's your
You know what? I was in China one time and I saw the KFC, so I went there. Yeah, it was a little bit more greasy, and it didn't taste the same as this. But there's also McDonald's tastes very much the same everywhere you go. Yeah.
Because they food is pre-made.
Yeah, prepackaged.
Well, I went to a Chinese drive-thru.
Really?
The Chinese one.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking,
Yeah.
that's cool. That's cool. I see Chinese deliver pizza. And Italians deliver
Okay, when we're talking about globalization, we're talking about an increase in trade between countries, highly developed, advanced countries, which means a highly educated population, able to produce more sophisticated goods and services, with countries who have lower skilled labor, that means lower population, educated population. That means the wages are lower. So there's trade-offs that go along. All right? This is the economic aspect of globalization. The information advances over the last 20 years have really enabled this to rapidly accelerate. When I talk about information, I'm not just talking about picking up the cell phone or a fax machine. I'm talking about the computer, internet technology, all right? And the ability to check prices, to obtain information at an instant rate, right? Instant. Some of you can go on your cell phone right now and buy 100 jeans from a Chinese supplier and you go to the right website. All right? And it will be FedEx and shipped to your doorstep within 1 to 2 days.
That's right.
Right? Huh?
Promise.
Overnight. Go online.
I'm
Look
just
it up.
saying, how much? We're just trying to say it's cheaper to make stuff over there?
Yeah,
Or
well,
easier to
really-
get it?
No, there's both.
They accommodate you. They accommodate
Yeah,
you.
but see, this is the thing. For
For
you, you have an American address. So they're gonna say $10 each. And then you're gonna have the shipping costs. You go there, it can be $1 each. But it depends. They're familiar with the Americans that are going over there to make bucks. So I'm gonna show you right now what I'm talking about. All right? What this does, on the one hand, if you're at the top of the economy, the food chain, there's more profits to be made because you can take a larger cut, right? You open up a store here, you buy goods that are cheaper from a developing country with cheaper labor, and the profit is yours. All you got to do is have minimum wage workers working in your shop. On the same time, since you don't have to have those goods produced here in the United States, those goods are cheaper for you now, right? So that pushes down the wage, the earning power of people who are at the lower end of the economic scale, all right? And typically, the people who are at the lower end are the people who are having less education, people who have less education, typically because they go to lower performing schools. They don't live in the wealthier areas, all right? And they cluster to jobs that are more vulnerable to, say, offshore, right? When I talk about globalization, there's a formula to it. I just mentioned it. Most of the big chain stores, retail stores that we shop in, whether at the malls, Target, Walmart, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, they bring boatloads of goods in from the developing world every day. They sell it to you at a quote-unquote market rate. And the people who own the companies, they're going to take larger and larger cuts because the goods are cheaper and cheaper. All right? It's a concept I'm about to show you right now. Well, Walmart is a perfect example. It's the largest employer in the United States. largest. 2.2 million employees. $447 billion in revenues. It's a lot. Every town in America that will allow them in. The revenue is about 3.5% of the U.S. economy. To be a percentage of the U.S. economy, that's a large organization with a large impact. All right.
Okay. You give you one more walk, we're ready. 3 steps up, slowly come down, still talk.
Okay. Wasn't there a song, a Paul Abdul song that said 3 steps forward and 3 steps back?
It was straight up.
This is for your program, Dr. Oliver.
What kind of stand like this?
You're still talking about this in space now. Okay. Just like that, that's perfect. That's 4 steps.
This is a good,
Slow. I'm so.
Oh, he's shy.
you guys are shy, that's funny. Yeah.
We're good. Thanks, everybody. Thank you.
I know that was quite an experience, y'all. Personal attendant, y'all. Okay, what I want you to do is this is going to be about a 9-minute video about Chinese factories that make the goods that we make. I showed this in one of the other classes. This is key to understanding this dynamics of globalization. Right? It gives more context to this concept that we talk about in the American context. All right. So without understanding this, you can't understand how to address it.
To see firsthand how the promise of a vast new market for America was playing out, I headed for China. In the heart of its new industrial revolution, Shenzhen, South China's miracle city. 20 years ago, this was all rice fields. Today, it's a sophisticated city of 7 million. Its astonishing rise, orchestrated by China's leaders, and ignited by a Chinese currency devaluation in the mid-90s that dramatically lowered its export prices.
It's the opening of China. China is another country, and for the longest time we had closed doors. And when they opened up to Western businesses, the floodgates opened basically, and it's something that you just can't stop.
The boom seemed endless. North of Shenzhen, I found an entrepreneur who was among the first first to spot opportunity in the new China.
Well, these are the products we make. This gives you some idea of...
Australian Donald Hay came to South China 20 years ago.
I was in this part of the world and I could see it. I saw the cheap products come out of Japan, and I saw then that market went to Korea and then went to Taiwan. I said, hold it, hold it, hold it. The next one's China, I've got to get here.
The backbone of China's new industrial might is the flood of young Chinese pouring into this industrial province, an area no bigger than Missouri, now teeming with more than 40 million migrant workers. They come to work and live at the factories. At Hay's company, Haycup, they make $100 a month, or about 50 cents an hour. Other companies pay as little as 25 or 30 cents an hour.
They want to work, they want to earn the money, they want to get forward. And they will do anything to move forward.
Today, HICO supplies electric toothbrushes and home cleaning products to big American companies like 3M, Procter & Gamble, and Walmart.
What's happened is the world has come here as a marketplace. It's like a supermarket for manufacturing today. And the quality is up to world standards, the long way past world standards. And that's just what's happened in southern China.
All across the region, I saw evidence of the mass corporate migration into China. Highways lined with factories like airport hangars. Hundreds of billions of dollars in Western investment have poured into China in the past 20 years. And Walmart is here too. It has 35 supercenters in China, and behind one of them, here in Shenzhen, I found Walmart's Global Procurement Center, a huge buying operation tapping directly into China's new workshop of the world.
I interviewed people in Walmart's Global Procurement Center in Shenzhen, and I asked them about the total number of Walmart suppliers, and I was told that Walmart has 6,000 global suppliers. 80% of those suppliers are in China.
Several hundred employees work at the procurement center, keeping the import pipeline full.
Walmart gives Chinese suppliers the specifications for Walmart products, and they teach those suppliers how to meet those specifications. They have to do with price, they have to do with quality, they have to do with delivery schedule. So in a sense, Chinese suppliers learn how to export to the U.S. market through large retailers like Walmart.
The Chinese suppliers also learned just how tough Walmart can be.
Walmart is, they're very shrewd people. They know that they have the volume orders behind them, and they can go into a factory and almost demand, these are my demands, this is what I need. And
Kenneth Chan is a Hong Kong entrepreneur who used to supply Walmart.
I've even heard sometimes that they will call in 3 or 4 manufacturers and one of them will negotiate with and auction them off, say this is what we want.
the big reverse auction kind of thing where they bid the price as low as possible.
What do they do?
Basically, they bring people into their offices and just put a product in front of you and ask you to have everybody to bid their cost on the product. And it's very high pressure.
Have you ever been in that situation where you had a bid, you need 3 or 4 people in the same room?
Yeah, that. A lot of the things that I was involved in, they're very inexpensive. They're probably at the most maybe less than $1.
So they're pounding for a few pennies.
They're only pounding for, in a lot of cases, just 1 penny. In fact.
Now the argument is that this is getting a better deal for the consumer. Do you buy that, or do you say
no? It's getting a better deal for the retailer or the importer.
For the Walmart?
Yeah, for the Walmart, for the Targets, whoever does it.
I'd heard about the Chinese producing cheap, low-end consumer goods. What was striking to me was how many Chinese companies were going high-tech. You may not have heard of TCL, but you've seen their TVs and maybe bought them. Marketed under brand names like Philips and RCA. And you'll be hearing more from them soon. They have a wide range of modern electronic products. And they've just merged with French electronics giant Thomson. Together, they're now the largest TV maker in the world.
99% of our exports are for North America and Europe, where we make a large part of our profit. We need to fulfill the demand of our foreign customers.
And only one U.S. customer, it turns out, really matters to TCL.
Selling to Walmart accounts for almost all of our sales to the U.S. market. Walmart keeps a very low inventory and a fast turnaround, which forces us to speed up our production to catch up with the international market.
It was a familiar refrain. I heard it everywhere. Ramping up production, supplying Walmart, shipping to America. And at Shenzhen's main port, I saw a river of exports. 10 years ago, this was all barren land. Today, Shenzhen is on the verge of becoming the third busiest port in the world. And Walmart is one of its biggest customers.
Walmart has a very close relationship with China. China is the largest exporter to the U.S. economy in virtually all consumer goods categories. Walmart is the largest retailer in the U.S. economy in virtually all consumer goods categories.
It sounds like a commercial marriage made in heaven.
Walmart and China are a joint venture, and both are determined to dominate the U.S. economy as much as they can.
Walmart estimates that it imports $15 billion of Chinese goods every year, and maybe a lot more. You mentioned a figure of $15 billion direct and indirect imports. Others have given us higher estimates, so well into the 20s, maybe $30 billion. Is that possible?
I think it's possible. It could be higher, it could be lower. The other thing you have to remember is that we're growing pretty significantly in terms of sales. So next year it will be higher, and the year after that is likely to be higher as well.
Walmart is providing a gateway into the American economy for overseas suppliers in China and elsewhere. And it's doing it on a scale that is unprecedented.
Costco, that's a Chinese ship. Chinese ship, a Japanese ship here.
But they're all carrying Chinese product.
At the other end of the pipeline, I visited the port of Long Beach in California. I wanted to see how Washington's promise of massive American-made exports to China was working out. The port's communications director is Yvonne Smith. What are they shipping in and what are we shipping back?
Well, we're bringing in consumer products. We're bringing in about $36 billion worth of machinery, toys, clothing, footwear.
$36 billion right here in Long Beach.
$36 billion into Long Beach for China alone. Consumer products.
And what are we shipping back?
We're shipping out about $3 billion worth of raw materials. We export cotton, we bring in clothing. We export hides, we bring in shoes. We export scrap metal, we bring back machinery.
So they're doing all, we're like a third world country.
We're exporting waste paper, containers full of waste paper. We bring back cardboard boxes with products inside.
Add it all up, and the U.S. had a record $120 billion trade deficit with China last year, and it's headed even higher this year.
The myth of the enormous and growing China market wound up locking the United States into a trading partnership with China that had to benefit China much more than it could benefit us. Because the reason was China would always be able to sell the United States much more goods than Americans could sell to Chinese. Because Americans had the incomes that are needed to buy Chinese products. Chinese consumers overwhelmingly don't have the incomes needed to buy American products.
So the whole idea was wrong.
It was completely wrong.
When you look at the growth of the trade deficit with China, you could say that a very conservative estimate is that we have lost more than 1 million jobs to China since the early 1990s.
I think it's impossible to say that we've lost 1 million jobs to China. Trade policy or trade flows, one way or another, don't have an effect on overall employment numbers.
They affect the kinds of jobs we have. And so some number of jobs have definitely been eliminated because of Chinese competition. Elsewhere in the economy, other jobs have been created because of Chinese competition. Because American consumers have saved at Walmart buying Chinese goods, they've got more money in their pocket to buy something else, which creates business opportunities for those other businesses, which means they hire workers they would not have hired otherwise. The net effect, most economists think, is a wash.
Theoretically, the gains from trade offset the losses from trade. But nothing says that there are more winners than losers. And nothing says that for the bottom 3/4 of America, that they are net gainers. In fact, I believe that most people have been losers from trade.
The impact of China's export boom has been felt all
Very interesting, huh? So, there's a couple key numbers that were said here. How many workers were in that one province, Shenzhen province? They said migrant workers. How many? Any guesses?
I can't remember.
40 million. 40 million. What was the average wage?
$100 a month. $100 or 50 cents an hour.
$100 a month.
Yep.
Yes.
Is that like normal? Because it kind of looks like it's like slavery.
No, but they can live. If people are moving from they're migrant workers, they're moving from rural areas that are much poorer. This gives them a stable job, so they're not working off the land. It's not slave to an American. Yes, it is slave labor, right? But to them, they're voluntarily going into the factories and working. It's an income, a stable income.
Yeah.
It's money, right?
The reason why I asked that is it looked like he was kind of like scolding. Like one of the girls looked like a little intimidated.
The culture is like that, right?
Right.
Because there's more factories and economic development doesn't mean there's more equality, social progress, right? Slowly, maybe, but it's not America. The rules are different, right? The rules are different, the regulations are different. But the key thing to understand, this is one province. 40 million migrant workers. That means people are coming into the city in the millions, willing to work for 50 cents an hour, $100 a month. Now I know the Metro North, break it down over the last couple of weeks, right? How much does it cost for 1 month? 100 what?
It's over 150 hours.
Rochelle, Grand Central Station.
It's over 100.
No, it depends on.
He said from the Rochelle to Grand Central Station.
Okay.
So it's very difficult to get back and forth. All right? For $100 a month.
So what's happening, basically what's happening in China is what happened in the United States in the early 1900s with the Industrial Revolution.
Exactly. They're going through their Industrial Revolution now at a much more rapid rate than the world has ever seen. It's the exact same process, right?
The gentleman that we were talking about in yesterday's class, how he basically made the factory workers work more to produce more, but more efficiently. Like, I'm seeing this. It's just like that same concept, just broadened.
Exactly.
Now it's like a global. Now it's just on a global level. So you got people in China that can do more for way less than what we can do.
That's why the businesses.
That's why they stay over there. That's why they out here.
And this is a lesson, right? We also talked about, yesterday we talked about Wilson. We all learned about Woodrow Wilson. One of the things he said was right. Borrow, right? You don't have to borrow the murderous ways of the knife sharpener. So you can borrow the technique of sharpening the knife, but you don't have to borrow the murderous ways, right? Right?
That's what terrorism was that.
It's a two-way street, right? Who's winning? What's happening at the ports? You saw. What's going out? What's going over to China? Raw material. What's coming in? Products. All the consumer goods, right?
What I'm concerned about it in the United States, but McDonald's, when they're not selling hamburgers to make the money they're making. I mean, they use that, but their main thing is real estate with the land. Do they have the same policy in China when they make their investments? Who owns the land? And it said that the place was barren, this was wasteland.
I don't know the specific, how the rules and regulations work. Some places you can only lease the land. Some places you buy, some places you can only lease. I don't know specifics, but I'm pretty sure if you are vital to that country's national interest, you'll be taken care of. You don't have to worry about that. All right? Now, one of the things, another number that was put out there is they said there's about $36 billion worth of goods and services coming in from China every year. 36 billion, right?
I thought I heard 120.
You said 36. 36. Yeah. Now, that's a big number. But this 44.7 billion gross sales receipts, that's even larger. So even if you account for all the real estate, right, your labor, your minimum wage labor, there's profits to be made. All right, it's a higher concentration of profits. I want you to see that model. Now, one of the readings talked about the 1937 to 75, the era of the middle class expansion. Meaning that during this time, the middle class expanded like really no other time in American history. And Mr. Manza, he argued that there were five principal reasons, five principal things that went on here. There's tax reform, which was like right after the Great Depression, that taxed the wealthy, the highest income earners at a much higher rate than there is today. There's a New Deal, labor, financial reforms that cut back on some predatory lending practices, which actually led to the Great Depression. Not the Great Depression, the crash in 1929. There's New Deal labor laws, which rapidly accelerated the growth of labor unions, especially in the private sector. All right? Then there's civil rights reforms, the end of Jim Crow laws, which allowed African Americans to get full citizenship, which allowed more people to start earning a higher wage. And in this process, the South, Southern United States, rapidly accelerated from a primary agricultural-based economy to more of a service-based economy. This brought up the per capita income of the entire United States. All right? Let's give you an example. Does anyone know where the headquarters of Bank of America is? Charlotte, North Carolina. All right. Go there, you see big glass buildings. hyper growth going on here. Has anyone heard of the concept of the Sun Belt? Right, southern United States going all the way out west. Has anyone heard of the Rust Belt? What that's referring to is some areas, especially over the last 20, 30 years, have continually grown, and some, their economies have shrunk. Right? But the southern United States has grown, and the West. But some of the Midwest has struggled. Now, one of the things, like we talked about, that's helped out globalization is technology. But computers have rapidly accelerated and transformed the nature of work. The nature of work. All right? Has rapidly increased productivity in the sense that, for the most part, if you do not know how to use a computer or some type of machine, it's very difficult for you to get a job. Or you have to learn the machine on the job. Every type of job, in some way or another, there's some type of machine. Computerized mechanism. So in 1984, only 25% of workers had a computer. 2003, over 56%. And now, most people have cell phones. Right? You have the internet on it. Instantly talk to people, so forth and so on. Almost all high-paying jobs require some type of technological proficiency and low paying. But the main thing here is you have to have to be equipped with the skills and knowledge to get these jobs. Right? So there has to be some type of training. But in America, we're a service-based economy. We're not an industrial economy. We're not building anything, right? I see a lot of yawns, and I feel it. Right? I feel it. So I'm going to move through for a little bit. Right? One of the things I want you to see here in this table is from the occupations with the numeric job growth from 2010 to 2020 for the next 7 years. It's done by the Department of Labor. All right. I know it's hard to see, but what I want you to see is at the top, it's registered nurses. All right. New jobs, about 711,000. Average wage is 64,000, which is a decent wage. All right. It's the top. Why is it nurses?
High demand.
Baby boomers. All right. Baby boomers. All right. Creates the high demands. Demographic changes. But what you need to take note of is almost all of the professions right under that.
Home health aid.
Well, the second one's retail sales. Yeah, Walmart and any other retail store, right? Average wage is $20,000 per year. Well, that puts you can buy a house.
$10 a year.
Huh?
I'm getting ready to say.
Rough, right?
Right, $20,000 a year.
Not here.
Yeah, but they give you less than.
Next is home health aides, 20,000. Personal care aides, office clerks, food prep. The list goes down and down, on and on, until you get down to post-secondary teachers.
surprised at those figures there.
2010.
Registered nursing now, you gotta have a bachelor's.
Yeah, these are the 20 highest growth jobs in America over the next 10 years.
Wow.
All right? So what I want you to start seeing is putting together these connections. All right? So on the one hand, we have these readings, right? We talk about the equality in the United States. Now we're going over this this global concept of globalization, looked at from a cultural perspective and then an economic perspective, right? What happens is the American worker is now competing with the Chinese worker, all right? Once that happens, wage pressure continues to go down, meaning the amount that you can demand, unless you have a specific skill where you can demand a higher wage. All right? So the challenge is this, especially from a policy-making perspective. You want the economy to grow, but you need jobs, you need investment. All right? What jobs are out there? Right behind you. Health, right? So if you're managing a city, you need economic development. With these numbers, what are you trying to do? Where are you looking? All right? Because, on the one hand, there's global competition. You are no longer just competing with the neighboring towns. You're competing in a global marketplace. All right? So as individuals, you have to know that you have to have a special skill. But in terms of economic development, when we talk about budgeting and finance for your local communities, what type of training is going on, what type of education is being provided, what type of employers are in the area. It's all retail. There's tax revenue coming in. What types of jobs do they provide? All right. Can people afford to live there? These are all these dynamics to this. It's not easy. It's not neat. It's not clean. But you need to understand what the economic structure is. When people talk about inequality, right, you can have a job, it's what we call the working class, the working middle class, right? But you can do everything right. Because a lot of these jobs, it says you need an associate's degree, but if you compete with people with bachelor's degrees, then you need them, right? But it costs money to get there. This is a slide of the highest, largest employers in the country. Walmart, Yum Yum, McDonald's, Target, Sears, Burger King, Starbucks, Macy's, JCPenney. Now, when we talk about public policy and this government shutdown, do these places provide health care?
No. Because they don't hire full-time workers. They're part-time workers, they don't have enough food, that's why they hire more part-time people. Right, they don't have full-time.
What is the percentage of workers that are part-time?
Majority.
Over 90%, right? The far majority.
Probably administration or the office.
Now, if you're working class, working in one of these largest companies in America, can you afford to just buy health insurance on the open market?
No.
prohibitively expensive, right?
Astronomical.
Astronomical. It's crazy. It's astronomical. It's inhumane, really. Right? Now there's a dynamic going on here, right? This is the employment in America, and projections say that this is, for the most part, these are what the jobs are in the future, right? But when it comes to health care, something humane, there's a mismatch here, right? And out of all the things that have happened in the last 17 years, what is the one thing that brings the government to a halt?
Health care.
Trying to give these people health care.
Right.
These people.
Ain't no money in that. Giving them people health care.
These people, right? The people who serve everyone in here, right? We buy their goods and services, so forth and so on. But what's even more insidious about this is the way the laws are written to allow
A company will make $444 billion not pay their workers.
to tell all the workers, right, you can only work 35 hours a week, not that extra 5 or 4, so you get health insurance.
Right.
Right? Now, people, if these CEOs, right there, who make all this money, were calling up their representatives saying, look, just let the thing pass. Stop acting childish. Right? Would they do that? No. Why?
They're going to lose money.
They're going to lose money. Right? They're going to lose money.
That's true. Because they got to make
money. So now we're talking about public finance, and then we're talking about, it goes back to the theory, the relationship between the people and the state. Right? Because this is what's allowed to happen. This is the relationship. The state allows for this. Not the state. Because they have to pay for workers' health insurance.
Right.
So if they pay down Obamacare for the affordable care, then Walmart will lose money because
They have to pay into the insurance pot.
Yep.
Okay.
You get money. All that money.
You know, part of this has to do with ethics. You know, what's ethically sound towards other human beings. And see, my issue is that we the people started this country. And we're literally taking this from a handful of people in Washington, D.C. So that's my issue. Because this country was founded on that whole principle of taxation without representation. I know I'm going back to the Air Force, but it's okay. We pay their salaries, and we're tolerating them throwing a temper tantrum because we want health care. That every human being, if everybody in the United States
Deserves health care.
Deserves
to see a
health
doctor if you're sick, right?
Yes.
But some people think that if you're poor, you don't deserve to see a doctor. Or you need to be dying to see a doctor, right?
That's the green concept.
Right. Well,
This is,
well, the thing is, I mean, if that's the case, if people want to take that way, then that's suicide on their part. Because if I'm sick, I die, I'm gonna buy the next offer. So who's gonna give you the profit if you're not, I mean, it's part of the reciprocity of our economy. So.
for a country,
For
right?
our country, right, so
For
we
a
all
nation.
die off, who's buying the
Basically, that's the necessity that they're buying the Chinese people since they're the rising middle.
No, they're gonna die off too, they can't afford health care either.
So what we're talking about, there's a cultural dimension here, right? There's some type of social contract that we're starting to get at, right? What's the relationship between the employees, the workers? How do we divide this pie? What is equitable? What's fair? Right? Now this is something I just pulled up. I was going to put up a pie chart here, and I thought this was more interesting. All right? This is a representation of wealth in the United States. 1% own a very large share, about 44%. That would be the side of the United States. That's a very large territory. Very large. Very beautiful too. Extremely.
And a lot of untapped natural resources.
Exactly, right? 9% would own this. And the remaining 90 would own this.
That's really the way it is.
Really?
I wanted to show you this powerful visual representation.
That's really the way it is.
Okay?
Says.
So when we talk about politics, financial policy, so forth and so on, the underlying theme is the relationship between the state and the people. But who is controlling the state? All right? From this point on, we're going to start moving forward, talking about budgets, in cities, American cities. All right? What's going on in the city? Talk about economic development. Then we're going to we're going to go into the budgeting process of the United States, because the budgeting process is the central communicating document of any organization. That's the key. Budget is the key. What we've been doing is laying the foundation, the groundwork to understand the budget as a representation of what's going on in the organization and society, and it's a reflection of societal values. The budget is a reflection of the organization's values. All right? Now, there are a lot of there's policy recommendations that have been done to address the growing inequality that we have. But what you have to understand is we're on this train. It's hard to jump off. So when you look for ways to address these policy challenges, things like unemployment, economic inequality, you have to find things that are practical, that can actually be done, but realizing that you're on this train. The first thing is make college affordable. Why is it crazy expensive to earn an education, something that you need to enter the labor force? All right? It's ridiculously expensive. Something that you need. And it shocked me when I was in Europe. I asked some people, talked to a doctoral student about to finish her PhD. How much does it cost per year? 1,200 euros, she told me. The best university in Spain. 1,200 euros. That's about $1,500, $1,600.
Oh, wow. For a PhD? A year.
PhD student per year to go to the best university in Spain. Per year. Think about that. If you're paying $1,600 per year, when you graduate, you don't have the loan. You're free. You're not already trapped into the system before you're able to get out there and compete. At one point, universities were subsidized, state universities. They were affordable. Private colleges and so forth and so on. Something happened, right?
Integration.
Well, there's a public policy decision to put the financing onto the students. To make them pay as you go. It doesn't have to be this way. All right? Reduce the cost of job training, similar to college, right? To raise workplace standards, it gets back to the profit motivation, to the minimum wage, the profits that are made by those at the top. Saying there needs to be some type of relationship. All right. Now, as we move along, you can go back into this and you can review it. I see you guys tired. I'm going, I understand that. But listen, I've been recording these lectures. What I'm thinking about doing is I want to put them on this integrity. I'm going to see how that works. Okay? So then when people are sick, people cannot catch the Metro North, they can go on there, look at the lecture. I'm going to see how that works for last class, and then you keep giving me feedback. I keep moving the camera around, trying to get the angle, because sometimes there's things, you gotta work through it, okay? If that doesn't, if the integrity takes too long to upload, I will create a YouTube channel. Then you can access it, so forth and so on. You want to watch it over and over again?
No, I'm talking about some of us using it. I'm
I'm
talking about my personal using. Yeah. My personal, I don't know.
All right. That's it.
But you still gonna put this in?
Yes, yeah, of course, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Just to keep me awake.
All right, you have a good one. Get home safe. All right.
How you doing, sir? How are you?
Let's go to the thing.
All right, let's go. Night, folks. You gotta get home safe.
So you got that, right?
29 minutes of late. This is kind of, this morning, yeah. Did you like it? Was it a good
But if they have a question, they need to type it in, just, just read it. It's almost like a
And I'm done saying,
yeah, but can I get that scholarship?
Who's been I got?
All right, cool. All right.
Yes, you got to sign.
My reference?
Yes.
I got